Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Chag Sameach, or as we say, Moedim L'Simcha, seasons of joy, a season for rejoicing, and it is so wonderful to be here on this Shabbat with all of you as we rejoice and celebrate, not just Shabbat, not just our festival of Sukkot, not just our upcoming holiday of Simchat Torah, but this evening as we celebrate Rabbi Bruce Lustig and his 36 years, double chai of being a rabbi here at Washington Hebrew Congregation. We take a moment as we come into this space, we create a holy place simply by being here together, but not just by sitting and not just by joining our voices, but by interacting and connecting with one another. So I invite you to take a moment right now to greet someone seated near you, someone perhaps you don't already know or to whom you're not related, and to just welcome each other and wish each other Shabbat Shalom. We also welcome, and we're going to have to wait a couple more minutes, I guess. Keep going. It's a good sound. We also want to welcome all those who are joining us via live stream. We are so happy to have you with us, whether you are sitting here in our Kaufman Sanctuary or joining us through the wonder of modern technology. We will have throughout our service this evening a number of people who will be sharing reflections and also reading in our service. But to really start us off for this weekend, I am delighted. Well, first I should introduce those on the bima. Cantor Susan Bortnick, our Cantor Emeritus Mikhail Manovich, and our newest Cantor Suzanne Hamstra. And obviously we all know Rabbi Lustig and Rabbi Miller and Rabbi Fischel, and I'm Rabbi Schenkman, and we are delighted to be here with you. And we're also delighted to have our chairs for this weekend who are with us, Jeffrey Slavin, Jonathan Greenblatt, and Linda Adams, who will welcome us as well.
So as the co-chairs of the weekend's festivities, we also want to welcome you and thank you for coming. We say co-chairs, we use that lightly. It's really Linda's the chair and we are the bench. But we did want to share some of our thoughts on the accomplishments of Rabbi Lustig's tenure at Washington Hebrew as the senior rabbi. Obviously, we could talk for a long time about those accomplishments.
But we won't.
But we promise not to. The program is very complete and is going to be very interesting, and so we will keep our comments extremely brief. And I'll start. One general observation and then one personal one that I wanted to share. My general observation about Rabbi Lustig and what I admire the most about him is his guts to lead on issues that he feels strongly about. If one manifestation of leadership is to create important initiatives and then develop them into realities, Rabbi Lustig has led with a fervor that very few leaders actually exhibit. Tov, Mitzvah Day, MLK services, multiculturalism, congregational trips to Israel, the list goes on of the initiatives that Rabbi Lustig has led us in and pursued personally. All those initiatives have made us better and are now baked into this congregation's way of life. This service is actually the perfect illustration of it, and it'll unfold to make that point hopefully very clearly. And even more courageous was given how young Rabbi Lustig was when he assumed the leadership role. So for me, the thing I admire most about Rabbi Lustig is he's not afraid to lead. On the personal note, Rabbi Lustig led the way into accepting our family into the fabric of the congregation. Linda and I and our children are emblematic of his acceptance of non-traditional families. Maybe some people would underestimate the importance of this, but Rabbi Lustig's willingness to pave the way made it much easier for us to follow, and it meant a great deal to us and still does, and Linda and I are standing here tonight in large part because of it.
Rabbi Lustig embodies the characteristics of a servant leader. He honors others, he inspires vision, he chooses ethics, he empowers others, he privileges people over tasks, he balances focus with flexibility. I know that each of you has had an enduring memory of a simcha, a baby naming, bar or bat mitzvah, a wedding, and countless other times of loss or sorrow when Rabbi Lustig was there for you. Our grown children still talk about our trip to Israel when they were young. On a personal note, Rabbi Lustig did the wedding of our daughter, Jessie, and he had known her from the time we came to Washington Hebrew over 25 years ago. I just want you to picture this. It is late August in Washington, D.C. We have to turn off the AC for the service because it's too loud. Rabbi Lustig is schwitzing like crazy and telling the full story of our children's meeting and falling in love. He didn't leave out one detail. Our guests were amazed and talk about his remarks to this day. We will never forget this.
Rabbi Bruce, you have been an amazing spiritual leader. You have recognized the value in all of us, whoever we are. You have set an example for the next generation. You have inspired us to do our best. We know that your work is not finished, and we will be with you on the journey. So on behalf of the co-chairs, the chair, and the bench, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you everyone for being here, and now on with the show.
A number of people will participate in our service this evening, and we know that they represent so many who are sitting here and those who are streaming the service. And I just want to mention a few people who will be reading in the service so that you will have a sense of who is here. This is in order of appearance of those reading in the service, aside from our Washington Hebrew clergy. I could say every time these are friends of the congregation. They are all friends of the congregation because they are friends of Rabbi Lustig, and we're so honored they're all here. Pastor Jim Eaton, who is the lead pastor at Mosaic Church in Frederick, Imam Faisal Khan, who is the founding member of the Islamic Society of Washington area, Reverend Mark Thomas, who's the pastor at AME Zion Church in D.C., Rabbi Jonah Pesner, who's the director of the Religious Action Center of Reform Judaism and senior vice president of the Union for Reform Judaism, Dr. Andrew Rayfeld, who is the current president of the Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion, Reverend Emily Griffin, the associate rector at St. Albans Episcopal Church right up the street, Rizwan Jaka, who is the chair of the board of the Adams Center, Deacon Harold Gillard, who is the chairman of Deacon Ministry at First Rising Mount Zion Baptist Church here in D.C., Catherine Marshall is a senior fellow at Georgetown University's Berkeley Center for Religion, Peace, and World Affairs and a professor of the practice of development, conflict, and religion in the Walsh School of Foreign Service, and Reverend Sam Nixon, who is a longtime friend of the congregation, who has participated in many of our interfaith celebrations, as so many here have, and is associate pastor at the Alfred Street Baptist Church. Others will be introduced during the service, but we welcome all those reading in the service. And also want to turn to our service booklet to page 1.
Shabbat is the place where time and space meet without questioning how the beginning began or how the ending ends.
Shabbat is the place where song and silence meet, blessing each other with the gift of rest.
Shabbat is the place where dreams and angels meet, yearning together for a world of peace. Shabbat is the place where holiness and eternity meet, praying together for the world to come.
And this weekend is shared not only with this celebration for Rabbi Lustig, but we have celebrations for our B'nai Mitzvah for this Shabbat, Ryan Hutt and Emmy Goldstein. And so we invite their parents forward to bless our Shabbat candles, Kim and Mitch Goldstein, and Maria O'Donnell and Jason Hutt.
God has placed abilities and challenges in our heart without regard to gender. Each of us has the duty, whether man or woman, to realize those gifts God has given. As we enter into Shabbat, let us use this day of rest as an opportunity to reflect on our God-given talents and how we can use them to make this world the world that God envisioned for each and every soul.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotah tzitzivanu l'hadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Please rise.
If you are lost, you feel afraid, and you don't know what to say, then listen, listen to our God. Is there a question on your mind? Is the answer hard to find? Then listen, listen to our God. Listen with all your heart and soul, and with all your might. Write them and learn them and teach them well, every morning and night. Close your eyes and listen. Quiet yourself, there's nothing to say. Stop all the chatter that gets in the way and listen, listen to our God. When the wind and the thunder finally disappear, there's still a voice that you will hear if you listen, listen to our God. You can hear it from the top of the highest hill or from the valley below. It can come from the edge of the universe. It can come from within your soul. Close your eyes and listen. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod, Shem Kevod, Malechuto Leolam Vaed. Listen, listen to our God. Listen, listen to our God.
Please read responsively with us. Hear, O Israel, the divine links us together by love when we truly hear one another. You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with every fiber of your being, with all that you possess.
Let these words, which join you with God today, into your heart. Pattern your days on them, that you may, children, discover Torah with you.
Make your life into a voice of God, both in your stillness and in your movement. Renew these words each morning and evening in prayer and reflection.
Bind them upon your arm and head as symbols of act and thoughts, consecrated to a holy purpose. Write them in a muzazah at the entrance of your home, as a strength that all may discover divinity as they enter your home and your life.
Source of all being, we turn to you as did our people in ancient days. They beheld you in the heavens. They felt you in their hearts. They sought you in their lives.
Now their quest is ours.
Help us, O God, to see the wonderful being. Give us the courage to search for truth. Teach us the path to a better life. So shall we, by our lives and our labors, bring nearer to realization a great hope inherited from ages past, for a world transformed by liberty, justice, and peace.
Mark Thomas, I'm the pastor of Conti AME Zion Church in Washington, D.C. Standing on the shores of parted history, we still believe what we were taught before we ever stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land.
That the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together.
I'm not sure that Rabbi Lustig knows the exact number of B'nai Mitzvah, if he's taken that, the exact number of baby namings, B'nai Mitzvah, weddings, funerals, conversions over time, but he does remember his first, as they say you do, and the Glasserman family will join us to share some reflections, and I'm told that Mark Glasserman was Rabbi Lustig's very first bar mitzvah.
Good evening. I'm Mark Glasserman, my brother Scott, and my father Michael. On the occasion of Rabbi Lustig's 10th anniversary at Washington Hebrew Congregation, I had the honor of speaking as one of his past bar mitzvah students. and my remarks that evening were made in the spirit of what goes around comes around. Standing here tonight feels a little like deja vu. Little did I know at that time that not only would Rabbi Lustig tutor me and preside over my bar mitzvah as one of his first students. The year was 1987, and Rabbi likes to remind me that I introduced him to the Sony Walkman during our first practice session together. But nearly 20 years later, he would officiate Kristen in my wedding, his first interfaith one, outdoors on a memorably sweltering Memorial Day weekend in Georgetown. And on a much more bucolic day in the Hamptons 2 summers ago, that he would lead a beautiful COVID-modified service in our backyard in the Hamptons as my son, Austin, became a bar mitzvah. And in the process, completed what I believe is the rabbinical equivalent of hitting for the cycle. But that's not all. In addition to these milestones, he officiated my brother Scott's wedding in Ipswich, Massachusetts. And when I opened a Texas-style barbecue restaurant in downtown D.C., he officially designated it as non-kosher. While he has played a leading role in so many of our family's most cherished moments, he's also been there in our most challenging, providing comfort at my mother's bedside during her final days, memorializing her at her funeral, and leading our family and friends through Shiva services at my parents' home as sunset arrived on a painstaking day last fall. Through all of these occasions, Rabbi Lustig has been indelibly woven through the fabric of our family history. But he's so much more to me than a figurehead who's presided at life cycle events. From the moment I met him, he's been someone who I looked up to, a scholar and deep thinker whose counsel over the years was often just what I needed to hear in a moment of uncertainty or despair. Someone who could deftly balance humor and gravity, and whose sermons were always a highlight of the High Holy Day season, because, like a great book or movie, so many of them stuck with me for days and sometimes weeks afterward. And after all this time, while our relationship has matured to the point where I should be comfortable calling him Bruce, I still feel the need to call him Rabbi. And here's the thing. I know that I'm just one guy, and my family is just one among the myriad individuals and families that he's impacted in deep and meaningful ways. There are no words that I or anyone could adequately come up with to express the magnitude of his influence on this temple, on this local community, and Reformed Judaism at large. Rabbi, your dedication to your congregants has been nothing short of remarkable, and frankly, I don't blame you for retiring. From the very bottom of my heart and on behalf of our family, thank you and congratulations on a storied tenure at Washington Hebrew Congregation. And while you may be retiring, you will always be my rabbi.
Okay, I'm going to make some extemporaneous remarks. I'm just going to jump in between my dad and my brother. I'm Scott, and I just want to say, when I was very, very young, I had this attention deficit before that was even a thing, and Rabbi put me in all the child services to sing, because I'm sure you knew that I would never make it through if I were just sitting in the audience. And I really appreciated that. But once I went to the adult services, I found a way to sneak out, as most of my contemporaries might relate, until I didn't, until I stayed and I listened to Rabbi Lustig's sermons. And ever since then, wherever I've been, Los Angeles, Massachusetts, I've done my best to come home for the High Holy Days to listen to Rabbi Lustig especially, because he has so much to say, and every year I look forward to it, now whether it's on Zoom or not. And one of the things that I'm going to miss is that reliable sermon. It's just so wonderful, and I don't know how you do it every year. But I've also grown to be a contemporary of Rabbi Lustig's now. And I'm still able to listen to him because he's there for me all the time. And that is a relationship that I've developed recently, and it changes. And I'm so appreciative to you, and I just want to say I look forward to many, many more years of getting your wisdom and listening to you. So thank you, Rabbi, and congratulations.
For obvious reasons, I have only a very short amount of time to thank you for all you've done for our Washington community, Washington Hebrew, and especially the Glosserman family. But in fact, Bruce, if I had no time constraints, I'd likely still not be able to fully and appropriately express my gratitude for your 36 years of service to our congregation and for our personal friendship. From the moment he joined WHC, Bruce and my family have been intertwined. As Mark has told us, he was your first bar mitzvah here. A couple of years later, he blessed Scott at his bar mitzvah. And during these formative years for both Mark and Scott, he served as an important, very important teacher and counselor. Confirmations and my board service followed, and in 2006, you married Mark and Kristen, performing your first mixed marriage ceremony. I'll never forget you saying to me at the time, I told Mark at his bar mitzvah that I would always be there for him. How could I not fulfill that promise now? A few years later, you traveled to Ipswich, as Mark has indicated, and Scott, to marry Scott and Macy, and to complete the circle, you traveled to Long Island this last year to preside over Austin's ceremony, Mark's eldest child, and as Mark has said, to complete the trifecta, 36 years after Mark's bar mitzvah. Those were all the happiest of occasions. But just a year ago, we mourned together the loss of our beloved Marilyn. She was not just a congregant to you, but as well a close friend and confidant. We will be forever indebted to you for the solace and comfort you provided her and all of our family in the months and weeks leading up to her death and since. For 36 years, I've marveled at how at a macro level, Bruce, you are able to lead one of the largest Reform congregations in the country and simultaneously at a micro level be such an attentive, responsive, and loving rabbi and friend. You're an extraordinary individual, and we've all benefited in large and small ways through the years of your rabbinate. A question we should all ask ourselves is, if I were arrested for kindness and caring, would there be enough evidence to convict me? Bruce, for you, the answer would be overwhelmingly a guilty verdict. Thank you, kudos, and 1,000 attaboys.
We're going to hear from the Lerman family, and Jake is representing them, although Max flew in from LA to be here, and we are so happy to have you back along with the entire family.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jake Lerman, and Rabbi Lustig has been my rabbi for all of my life, and my family has belonged to Washington Hebrew for 3 generations. I could stand up here and speak for hours, talking about his inspirational presence, but there is one particular moment that I would like to share with you. He mentored me for my bar mitzvah and presided over my service, which was on October 27th, 2018. You may not recall, but that was the morning when the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh was attacked and 11 people were murdered. I specifically remember that during the service, someone walked up to the side of the bima, handed Rabbi Lustig a note, which he quietly opened and read. Neither I nor the rest of the community knew about this tragic event, but we were soon to find out. So during his sermon, he told us what happened and proceeded to deliver an incredible explanation, not just of the event, but of our role in the world to rise above this tragedy and make the world a better place. Those words continue to guide me and resonate with many others to this day. He was able to formulate those ideas with no advanced preparation and created one of the most meaningful and inspiring sermons I have ever heard. That skill is not something that can be taught or learned. It comes from a life dedicated to understanding, caring, and practicing tikkun olam. This comes from Rabbi Lustig's profound understanding of how when faced with adversity, hate, loss, or prejudice, we must learn to act with love and wisdom, which can turn tragedy into a transformative experience. Whenever I have the opportunity to be involved in a conversation with Rabbi Lustig, I pounce on it and take in each thing he says, because his wisdom is packed with the most interesting and insightful bits of guidance. I'm sure many of us can say the same thing about always wanting to talk to him, and you would think that it would be difficult for him to keep up with all the different people who admire him. But it is quite the opposite, actually. He offers a personal connection with everybody in this community and is open to all. Rabbi Lustig, we are incredibly blessed to have you, and we as individuals and as a congregation are fortunate to have shared your leadership, your friendship, and your vision and commitment for making a better world.
Representing the Hannenbaum family, Susan Hannenbaum, a past president of the congregation, and Alan Hannenbaum. And Susan is also our executive director emerita. And they will be followed by the Friedman family, Yael, Yafa, and Menachem, who have guided our congregation through Israel for a number of years and are close personal friends as well.
Shabbat Shalom. Tonight, we formally gather to celebrate our rabbi, friend, family, both congregational and personal, on his retirement and service of 36 years. Chai is the Hebrew word for life and refers to the number. Tonight, we are celebrating double high of service and friendship for Rabbi Bruce Lustig. My personal introduction to the Lustigs was when our daughter Jamie came home from a confirmation retreat 36 years ago, and a month before our younger daughter's bat mitzvah weekend, and asked the following. She made some new friends at the retreat. They're new to Washington. Could she invite them over for dinner? Practical, maybe a little concerned about dollars at that time. I said, how about the week after we'll have them for a Friday night dinner? She said, fine. We came here for Friday night service before Mara's bat mitzvah, and Jamie was thrilled because there were her new friends, Amy and Bruce. Who knew? That changed quickly.
There you go. Susan and I often reflect that Washington Hebrew was a family business. Not only was she, Susan, had the privilege of being executive director, but Jamie, our daughter, was development director, and our son was the IT director.
Son-in-law.
Son-in-law, I should say, son-in-law. It is now 15 years, and Susan has enjoyed her status as the ex-director of Emeriti, but her personal relationship is still a mainstay for us. We have been godparents to both Marcus and Eve, and have traveled together and been there for each other, not only in times of joy, but in times of sorrow.
I want to reflect and explain the physical objects that I brought here tonight, to share the essence of the man who has served as rabbi for 36 years. 8 years ago, while Bruce was experiencing a need for some personal and private time, he accompanied Alan and I to our second home in Cancun. Every morning, you could find Bruce on the beach where he'd set up his chair, his small table, and on the table he had paints and brushes that he had brought with him for the trip. He would then dive into the water several times a day to acquire small shells and rocks These items had experienced the flow and the ebb of tide for decades, as we do in life. Bruce then proceeded to paint a scene replicating a meaningful site in Israel. The artist Bruce would acquire a crowd gathered around him, and at the end of his visit, lifeguards and others, whom he now had as friends, would greet him with, "Hi, Rabbi, how's it going?" These treasures would then be dispensed back home at times he felt were appropriate. The clergy is called upon at times of joy and sadness, but the demands and the needs don't allow for the intense relationships to continue. These shells that he did it for all of us, these shells and pebbles are a remainder of support. They could be there forever. And as I gathered a few of my MBL gifts for tonight, I was astounded to see one shell wish me a happy 49th birthday. And since I'm standing in front of the ark, I will confess that was 31 years ago. And the latest one up here is for 80th birthday. What more can I say? I would like to offer the following poem from poem laureate Amy Lowell, who passed away in 1925, almost 100 years ago. If you parallel the word flower to shell or pebble in this offering, it will represent so much of what Bruce has offered to our congregation. Life is a stream on which we strew, petal by petal, the flower of our heart. The end lost in dream. They float past our view. We only watch their glad early start. Frightened with hope, crimson with joy, we scatter the leaves of our own opening rose, their widening scope, their distant employ. We shall never know, and the stream as it flows sweeps them away. Each one is gone, ever beyond and into infinite ways. We alone stay while years hurry on. The flower fared forth, through its fragrance still stays. Bruce, henceforth, may you only know blessing and peace.
Shalom. Honoring Rabbi Lustig on the occasion of his retirement, with both my parents present, Yafa and Menachem, marks a significant milestone as my family and I have known Bruce for over 30 years. We remember when Rabbi Weinberg, of blessed memory, introduced us to the young, energetic, and passionate Rabbi Lustig. As children, we used to call you the magical rabbi, making every visit to our house special with your magic tricks. If you see Bruce sitting on a street corner in Jerusalem or Tel Aviv, look carefully and you will notice a brush of bright watercolors in his hand as he paints his love of Israel and its people. Our family feels fortunate that we were able to see this special side of you whenever you visit Israel, which thankfully was often over the years. Bruce, I'll tell you a secret, but only you. But just you, before guiding our first trip together, I was nervous. You know, because for so many years you have toured with our top guides, among them, of course, my father, Menachem. I have to say, observing you leading a group through Israel was magical as your magic tricks. Your knowledge and passion of our homeland were astounding and made all the difference. You have done much to strengthen the bond between Washington Hebrew Congregation and Israel and have contributed greatly to the congregation's commitment to the Zionist vision on which the State of Israel was founded. I know there are many people here who have traveled with you to Israel for their first time, forming a personal connection with Israel. Many of them later solidified the connection as they brought their families and celebrated life circle events in Israel, generation after generation. Bruce, you are a dear friend, and by now a part of our family, and we were privileged to tour with you for over 3 decades. We look forward to continuing our connection with you all, our Washington Hebrew family, on future Israel trips. Bruce, the relationship you built with our family and with Israel will most certainly continue in the next generation, לדור ודור, from generation to generation. I wish to conclude by saying, תודה רבה, בריאות טובה ושמחה גדולה, and לשנה הבאה בירושלים. Thank you very much. We wish you good health and much joy, and of course, next year in Jerusalem.
They traveled the farthest.
Please rise for the Amidah. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agid teilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your glory. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, ve'Koneh HaKol, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה.
Praise is our God, the God of our ancestors and the God of all ages and peoples. God led our mothers and fathers from darkness to light, from error to truth, from bondage to freedom. And God will lead us to more light, new truth, greater freedom. Praised is our God, the shield of Abraham and the helper of Sarah.
Great is the Eternal One's power, and great the power we have been given. God's Spirit speaks within us, saying, heal the sick, help the weak, care for the poor, free the captive, be true to your faith. Then we become a holy people, true children of the holy God. Praised is the Eternal, the Creator of life.
You are holy, your name is holy, and your worshipers proclaim your holiness. Blessed is the Eternal One, the Holy God.
Amen.
Our next group of speakers are representatives of the community, and we invite Reverend Beverly Jane Goins, PhD, who is serving at Bethany Christian Church in Fort Washington, Maryland, and is an assistant teaching professor at Georgetown University. Professor Jacques Berliner-Blau, who is a professor of Jewish civilization at Georgetown University and just taught during our High Holy Days here at Washington Hebrew Congregation. And Reverend Thomas Bowen, who is the director of the Mayor's Office of Religious Affairs and the interim director of the Mayor's Office on African American Affairs in the Executive Office of Washington, D.C. Mayor Bowser. We invite them forward.
I first came to Washington Hebrew congregation about 25 years ago for a Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. program. I believed that I was completing my field education requirement at Michigan Park Christian Church here in Washington, D.C. to finish my Master of Divinity at Howard University. The pastor of Michigan Park at that time was the Reverend Dr. Dolores Carpenter, and she is who invited me to attend. I'd never seen so many clergy persons representing so many different religions participating in one service. I was amazed at the social and gender, the political, the economic, the racial and cultural barriers that were transcended by the people on the bema, as well as those in the audience who came together for a common cause, to honor the Reverend Dr. King and to proclaim that everyone had the right to live with human dignity, to demonstrate by their mere presence that we are weaved into one and the same human garment, and that we must work together to alleviate pain and to make the world a better place. The only way that I can describe the feeling that I had that night was that my heart was glad. It was bursting with joy that I had the opportunity to be a part of such an event. I remember sitting in my chair near where I'm sitting tonight and whispering, I want to be up there. I now believe that the Lord heard my whisper as a prayer. I continue to come to Washington Hebrew congregation for special occasions throughout the years and to become more involved in ecumenical and interfaith work professionally. But one day, I received a piece of mail at the church where I was serving. And when I opened it, it was an invitation addressed just to me to be a part of the MLK program. I would be up there. I would be on this bema. And as time progressed, I would find in Rabbi Bruce Lustig an ally. He supported me when I taught Jewish Christian relations at the Catholic University of America. He invited me to take part in Washington Hebrew's congregational conversations, which tackled topics such as Black-Jewish relations, as well as the rise in violence against Asian Americans during the pandemic. He invited me to attend events related to the Higher Committee of Human Fraternity that was established following a visit of Pope Francis and Grand Imam Al-Azhar to promote mutual respect, peace, and tolerance. He willingly participated in my work with the Interfaith Leadership Forum. But throughout all the time that I've known Rabbi Lustig, what has remained unwavering is his commitment to social justice. Over and over again, he has chosen to be on the side of the oppressed. He has chosen to feed the hungry. He has chosen to assist those who need shelter. He has chosen to extend the olive branch and to create dialogue between leaders of different faiths who have histories of misunderstanding and mistrust. Because of his sensitivity to the suffering of others, a constant curiosity that leads him to seek tangible solutions, and the inability to remain silent in the face of injustice, he chooses to speak out even when it's hard for him and hard for others to hear what he has to say. I ask your forgiveness in advance because it is not my objective to offend, but I must speak from my particularity as a Black woman And I want you to really understand what Rabbi Lustig means to me. You see, sometimes Jewish people have the option that is not available to me. They can hold on to the status quo, or they can choose disruptiveness. They can embrace whiteness, or they can choose oppression. But I can never escape neither the skin that I am in nor the racism, the negative stereotypes, or the marginalization that comes along with it. The real reason that I have hung on to Rabbi Lustig's coattails, why the answer is yes when he calls even before I know the request, why I have cleaved onto him, it's because I trust him. His words and his actions have already aligned. I believe that if we were out somewhere, and to use the vernacular, if something jumped off, like someone disrespecting me or diminishing my humanity in any way, that Rabbi Lustig would not choose whiteness. He would not choose safety. He wouldn't assume the status quo, and he wouldn't go along to get along. Rabbi Lustig would stand with me, right beside me. Without a shadow of a doubt in my mind or heart, I know that Rabbi Lustig would choose me. And that is why I love you. And that is why you are my friend, and I thank you for being my friend. And I thank you for your ministry and your witness. The best is yet to come. God bless you.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Chag Sameach. Reverend Bowen, Reverend Goins, Rabbi Shankman, Rabbi Lustig, thank you so much for having here. My reflection will be very personal and very brief. I came to Washington from New York in 2008, and as a professor, I came as the bearer of a rather esoteric, heretical, and some might say theologically incoherent form of Judaism. And I was so touched by the way Rabbi Lustig welcomed me into the congregation without any trepidation about the strange things that I might say from the Bima. And I felt that he was showing me that Washington Hebrew congregation was a very, very special Jewish space, a spiritual space, and an intellectual space. In the 15 years since I've been here, Rabbi Lustig officiated the bar mitzvah of my first son, Cyrus, my second son, Emil, and one other event which I'll discuss in a moment. With Cyrus, one thing I remember, which as a professor of literature, I put in the category of keeping it real. There's a moment in a bar mitzvah where the group sort of backs away from the microphone, and the rabbi says something from the heart to the bat mitzvah or the bar mitzvah in question. And what he said to my son, I cannot repeat publicly. It wasn't in any way derogatory, but it was so true and it was so honest. And it is something that suggests to me that he had observed this young man very, very carefully with great love and great respect. One has grown up to become an artist, and our second son is growing up to be a musician. And I have always felt that coming from this particular Jewish space, this is what permitted them to pursue career paths that might be a little bit unorthodox for many kids in the United States today. The final story I will tell you is this. In 2017, my wife converted to Judaism, my wife Hippolyta, who is here, and she was telling me that she found the process to be not at all ordeal-like. She found it to be very, very pleasant, in fact. So she asked Rabbi Lustig about the ordeal aspect. She said, well, is there an ordeal component to a conversion to Judaism? And Rabbi Lustig, surely trained in the comic arts, said, in fact, there is a small ordeal component, and by being married to Jacques Berlinblau, you have fulfilled that criteria. So for all the great work we've done together on African-American, Jewish-American relations, all this came from the rabbi, work on Jewish-American literature, work on the arts. I use the term keeping it real, and I feel that this is uniquely what Rabbi Lustig has done. What a great gift he's given all of us, given our spouses, our partners, and especially our children. Somebody earlier mentioned something about welcoming non-traditional folks to Washington Hebrew congregation. For me, that is the essence of Judaism in my esoteric, heretical, and somewhat theologically incoherent worldview. And this is precisely the ministry and the congregation and the great gift that Rabbi Lustig has given us. Thank you very much. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. The only reason that I'm here on this evening is because my employer, Mayor Muriel Bowser, insisted that I be at Washington Hebrew congregation on this day. You see, I'm in denial. I refuse to believe that Rabbi Lustig is retiring. Who in their right mind would leave Washington Hebrew congregation? In so much denial that I intentionally called for an Uber at the lowest rate, which meant that I have to wait 20 minutes, but it came in 2. In so much denial that when met at the door and asked if I was on program, I said no. And the person said, yes, you are. I don't know what's going on right now. Rabbi Lustig is a friend. He's a mentor. He's a professor. I owe him a debt that I cannot repay. I owe him tuition. But I hope that he's in the tuition and loan forgiveness business. But I will pay it forward with all that I have. I start each testimony before the DC City Council, something that by law that I must go through. And I start off my testimony with a quote from Rabbi Lustig, for he has implanted into my mind and my heart that Washington, D.C. is the interfaith capital of the world. And that's what I tell the chair of the committee and all those who are watching. But if Washington, D.C. is the interfaith capital of the world, and it is, then it's because we have someone at its helm. Exactly 2 months before Dr. King's assassination that he preached from the Ebenezer Baptist Church there on Auburn Avenue in Atlanta, and he preached his famous sermon, The Drum Major Instinct. In it, he intoned that if I am to be called a drum major, say that I was a drum major for justice. Well, D.C. is the interfaith capital of the world, and Rabbi Bruce Lustig is our drum major for justice. I am grateful for all that he has taught me. I am grateful for the many phone calls. Anytime the mayor has faced a crisis, Rabbi Lustig has called me and asked me to convey to the mayor that she is in his prayers. In the height of COVID, Rabbi Lustig invited the mayor here to this place and had not a political discussion with her, but a theological one, as he probed her mind and heart about the impact and influence of her faith on all that she does. We don't deserve Rabbi Lustig. I don't deserve him. The world does not deserve him, but one thing's for sure. God was in control because God knew that we needed him. And I am, once again, forever grateful. Now, to another part of my assignment, and that is this letter from Mayor Bowser. As mayor of Washington, D.C., I am proud to extend warm congratulations to Rabbi Bruce Lustig on your quote-unquote retirement from the esteemed position of senior rabbi at Washington Hebrew Congregation. For more than 3.5 decades, Rabbi Bruce Lustig has been a community-oriented spiritual leader at Washington Hebrew Congregation with an unmistakable commitment to advocating for social justice. Equipped with impressive education foundation, including a bachelor's degree from the University of Tennessee, go Vols, a doctorate of divinity and master's degree in Hebrew letters and ordinance from the Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion. Your educated and thoughtful work has uplifted all who have crossed your path. It comes as no surprise that you have earned such accolades, including a Medal of Honor from King Mohammed VI, and being named as one of America's most influential rabbis by Newsweek. In the wake of the 9/11 tragedies, Rabbi Lustig organized the first Abrahamic Summit, which brought together Christians, Jews, and Muslims for productive dialogue and connection. And among the many positions you have held, I am especially grateful for your service on my Mayor's Interfaith Council. Your long record of advocating for interreligious cooperation and dialogue has been extremely influential in generating positive social change and building important connections among folk from all religious backgrounds. You have distinguished yourself through your impressive work ethic and ambition, and you aptly and more than embody what I like to call our DC values. Once again, on behalf of the 700,000 residents of our nation's capital, you have my sincerest thanks, congratulations, and best wishes for every future success. Signed, Muriel Bowser, Mayor of Washington, D.C.
Guide my steps and help me find my way. I need your shelter now. Rock me in your arms and guide my steps and help me make this day a song of praise to you. Rock me in your arms and guide my steps.
O Fros, Aleinu, Sukkot, Shlomecha. O Fros, Aleinu, Sukkot, Shlomecha. Guide my steps and help me find my way. I need your shelter now. Rock me in your arms and guide my steps and help me make this day a song of praise to you.
have the words. Please join us. Oh, guide my steps and help me find my way. I need your shelter now. Lock me in your arms and guide my steps and help me make this day a song of praise to you. Rock me in your arms and guide my steps. Oh, guide my steps. Oh, guide my
This time we're going to hear some reflections from those who have shared in international interfaith work with Rabbi Lustig, Pastor Bob Roberts Jr., the founder of GlocalNet and chairman of Glocal Ventures Incorporated, co-founder of Multi-Faith Neighbors Network, and senior global pastor at Northwood Church, Imam Muhammad Majid, who is the executive imam of the Adams Center in Sterling, Virginia, and former president of the Islamic Society of North America and chairman of the International Interfaith Peace Corps, and Dr. Mohammed El-Sanusi, who is the executive director of the Network for Religious and Traditional Peacemakers, and was previously the director of community outreach and interfaith relations for the Islamic Society of North America.
Thank you. It's an honor, Rabbi Bruce, to get to be with you tonight. As I was listening to all these wonderful things that he's done, bridge building, bringing people together, helping them get along, people that normally don't talk with one another. As an evangelical pastor from Texas, it hit me. He's been trying to de-radicalize me. And I thought he loved me. Kind of like I've been trying to baptize him the last 5 years with no success. But I love him deeply, and I'm grateful for him. There are simply three things that I will say in less than 3 minutes. Number one, your life matters. It matters to me. It matters to evangelicals. When we first met, and I asked you to work with us and help us out, and David visited with you about it, you came along, you loved us. We're conservative, we're crazy, and so are you. The second thing is your influence. I'm sorry, you're not conservative. I think I believe more of the Old Testament than you. Second, your influence, I'm just teasing you, your influence is felt big time. I don't know of a single pastor that knows you, that doesn't love you, that doesn't care about you. You matter to us. I don't care if it's a hurricane or if it's an event or if it's some work that needs to be done, you're willing to do it. That matters. And the third thing I would say to you is that your courage is real. I've watched you bridge buildings, whether it was Abu Dhabi or Texas or here or wherever. And courage is not a big value today in our country. Definitely not. Sometimes in our governmental leadership, but sadly, it's even absent in our pulpits, regardless sometimes of our faiths. You have courage. You're willing to call things into question and speak truth to power. So all I want to say is we love you, and we're grateful for you, and you matter to all of us. Thank you.
I'm the Imam of Old Dallas Area Muslim Society, Adams, and Adams Center and this wonderful synagogue become like sister organizations because of the leadership of Rabbi Bruce Lustig. This guy, every time you meet him, he has some project. And he commit me to something. Well, that's why sometimes I don't take his call. But I would like to say, Muslim community really, when they come to this congregation, they feel home, honestly. And in the world that's so pluralized, that means a lot. Our children have sang on this stage, and your invitation. And Rabbi Bruce Lustig is a friend, and they said that friend in need is a friend in need. When there's a problem, there's a crisis, there's an issue of Islamophobia, you receive a call from this man. When a tragedy took place in my community, we lost a 17-year-old, was killed, a young lady in Ramadan. As I was about to do the sermon and to preside over the funeral, somebody grabbed me from the back in the middle of the mosque. Was not a member of my congregation, was this rabbi, and gave me the hug and the comfort before I went to do the sermon. And my community recognized that he was there among the congregation, sharing with them what this community, your community, mean to them. And therefore, my friend, we love you, appreciate you, God bless you, and Ridwan Jaka have given you a plaque with all his selfies with all others to you from Adamson.
Well, Shabbat Shalom, Assalamu Alaikum, and peace be upon all of you. It's really a blessing to be with you in this blessed day and in this sacred place and in this blessed occasion. Rabbi Lustig, we love you, but you also love the congregation. We love the Washington Hebrew congregation. We love the Religious Action Center for Reform Judaism, and we love the entire URJ movement. Because this is a movement that Rabbi Lustig gave the foundation for Rabbi Lustig, not only interreligious dialogue and understanding here at home, but around the world. So tonight, we celebrate Rabbi Lustig contribution and dedication to the international interreligious movement. His efforts is well recognized and appreciated. In our efforts to advance interreligious understanding, Rabbi Lustig and I traveled the world in various trips through which I came to know Rabbi Lustig very closely. The second Caliph of Islam, Caliph Umar, peace be upon him, he was also a companion of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, you know people well when you travel with them. So I came to know you, Rabbi Lustig, quite well. Our efforts to bring peace to the world took us to numerous capitals around the world. We traveled to the UAE, we traveled to, just to name a few, to Morocco, to Saudi Arabia, to advance interreligious dialogue and understanding. His efforts with the Alliance of Virtue, his efforts with the human fraternity was mentioned earlier. But Rabbi Lustig and I make sure when we're done with the interreligious understanding and gathering, we also do our work in these capitals to make sure we get our 10,000 steps in, Rabbi Lustig. But in our work, we talk about many things. Rabbi Lustig always making sure, among the other things that we talk about it, he also wanted to make sure that also the walk is educational. He told me about Rabbi Jacob Rader Marcos. He told me about Rabbi Marcos, his mentor, and it's a towering figure in Rabbi Lustig's life. So Rabbi Lustig always carry with him the beautiful story of this congregation as well. So tonight, Rabbi Lustig, we celebrate you. I would also like to bring you the greetings of Sheikh Abdullah bin Bayer, whom you invited him to this very congregation and welcomed him with the same song that Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was welcomed in Medina, the beautiful city that had Jewish, Christian, Muslims, and people of other tradition live together. So, Rabbi Lustig, we value your commitment and dedication to advancing interfaith partnership, and we wish you all the best in quote unquote the retirement phase. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Is Deacon Harold Gillard here as well?
Blessings for peace. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the people of the earth. Bless our country, that it may always be a stronghold of peace and its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within its borders, health and happiness within its homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship among the inhabitants of all the lands, and may the love of your name holler every home and every heart. We praise you, O God, the source of peace.
Thank you. In just a moment, we're going to pause for silent prayer. And as we do, I'd like to call the opening line of our Torah reading that takes place in these holy days of Sukkot, where Moses cries out to God, "You have asked me to lead these people forward. You have asked me to lead these people forward, but who will come with me?" One of the things that Rabbi Lustig knows so well, and so do so many of the faith leaders who have graced our bima tonight, is that religious leadership especially is so difficult. Religious leadership especially can be so lonely. To guide a community of people toward the promised land, that is sacred work, and that can be lonely work. But what our tradition teaches and what Rabbi Lustig rabbinate inspires each of us so well is that when we lead others towards holiness, when we lead others toward their promised land, we never lead alone. We never journey alone. And so let us pause for a moment of silent prayer as we reflect on the many gifts that have been given to us by all those who have led us toward our promised land.
Rafa'enu Adonai v'nei Rapha. At this time, we will take a moment to pray for those who are in need of healing, whether of body, of soul, spirit, those who are in need of wholeness. And so, as a congregation this evening, we think of Betty, Speyer, April, and as I take my eyes across the room, I invite you to share names that you are thinking of as well, of those who are in need of healing. El Na Rafana La. We pray for the healing of all people. We pray for healing of every land, every race, every nation. Oh, please heal us now.
You will have to come back on another Shabbat to hear our cantors sing beautifully the words of Heal Us Now. And we say, Baruch atah Adonai Rofei HaCholim, we praise you, O God, healer of the sick. May our prayers rise up. May they be healed. We turn now to voices of leadership and social justice, inviting Rabbi David Saperstein, who's Senior Advisor for Policy and Strategy at the Religious Action Center of Reform Judaism, of which he was previously director. Rabbi Saperstein is also the former Ambassador at Large for International Religious Freedom, being the first rabbi in American history to hold an ambassador position. And he'll be followed by Reverend Cornell William Brooks, who is a professor at Harvard Kennedy School, as well as a visiting professor at Harvard Divinity. He is also the former president and CEO of the NAACP, a civil rights attorney, and an ordained minister. We invite them forward.
How moving to hear the testimonial of the congregants and to hear my colleagues praise Rabbi Lustig. It leads me to make what will at first sound like it has to be an exaggeration, and yet I believe it to be absolutely true to say that the job of a congregational clergy person is truly unique in all the world. There is simply no profession anywhere on earth that allows one individual to touch the hearts and souls of so many others so directly over their entire lifetime, from birth to death, young and old, in good times and bad, sharing moments of joy, offering solace at times of sadness, inspiring teaching and preaching, officiating at literally a couple of thousand or more life cycle ceremonies. You not only share, but shape the lives of those who choose to engage with you, challenging, motivating, empowering our congregants to find their own unique Jewish vision that can illuminate their lives and stimulate the spirituality of their souls. What an extraordinary profession. What a sacred calling. And Bruce Lustig was one of the very best, nurturing the flourishing of this historic synagogue that is one of the jewels of the National Reform Jewish movement, indeed of all American Jewry. And I know with confidence that your new senior rabbi, the gifted and wonderful Rabbi Shu Shankman, will continue making her own lasting and remarkable impact in your lives. Now, I stand here in two capacities. The first is as a Jewish professional, academic, government official who is blessed to be able to devote a significant part of my life to the causes of social justice and the cause of interfaith comity and cooperation, both domestically and internationally. You have heard the remarkable attestations as to the enormously effective role that Bruce has played in that interfaith arena. In truth, we could have had an entirely different cast of participants here, testifying to the same impact in other realms of interfaith settings. We do not have bishops in Jewish faith, but for generations, the senior rabbi of this congregation has been a peer interlocutor with the most prominent figures of religious life in Washington and beyond. Yes, the National Cathedral has engaged many rabbis in its programs, but time and again, when it was really important, they turned to Rabbi Bruce Lustig to represent our community. And when the Episcopal Bishop of Washington, D.C., the Catholic Cardinal in D.C., would want a prominent rabbi at their side, often it was Bruce Lustig. So too, as you heard, on the international scene. Yes, the Pope and the Grand Imam of Al-Azhar may have signed the Human Fraternity Statement, but look at this picture that they chose to put on their website of the religious leaders supporting this effort, and front and center is Rabbi Bruce Lustig. I've had the opportunity to witness what he has done. And I have to say, in your distinguished career, Bruce, you have been as fine a shaliach tzibur, a representative of the Jewish people, that we could have had. And second, I stand here as the only formal representative of the national institutions of Reform Judaism, but honored tonight by the presence of the visionary and courageous president of our seminary, HUC-JIR, Dr. Andrew Rayfield, and by my dear friend and one of American Jewry's greatest champions for social justice, Rabbi Jonah Pesner. A proud product of the Reformed Jewish movement, our camps and other youth programs at a time in history when every denomination in the nation is facing societal and economic strains, Rabbi Bruce Lustig has been a key ally in keeping our movement one of, if not the strongest denominational body in North American life. Many of you will never suspect this, but Rabbi Lustig can at times be a forceful critic when he sees opportunities for us to do better, but always in a respectful and constructive manner. And when we take his suggestions to heart, he doesn't just move on to the next cause, but stays to strengthen us in our efforts. Rabbi Rick Jacobs has often noted that Bruce has worked hard to forge stronger bonds between his lay leaders and the URJ, bringing the Washington Hebrew Congregation Board to New York to better understand what we do and our value to them in the wider movement. He was an engaged leader in the URJ's large congregations community, bringing his insights and successes and lessons to share with rabbis across the country. And for the Hebrew Union College, Bruce was a leader of the President's Rabbinical Council. He nurtured the professional and personal lives of numerous rabbis, cantors, educators, and Jewish professionals. As most of you know, he was strongly supportive of the work of our acclaimed American Jewish Archives at HUC in Cincinnati, where its founding director, the legendary Jacob Rader Marcus, served as caring and inspiring mentor to Rabbi Lustig. He's maintained his commitment to Dr. Marcus's life's work, not only in the choice of naming his oldest son for him, but in serving on the AJA's B'nai Yaakov Council, supporting it, and his own academic research and talks. And for the Religious Action Center, in its founding era, I will confess to you, the rabbinic leadership of this congregation was not happy and actually opposed the creation of this center. But Rabbi Haberman turned that around. Rabbi Joe Weinberg and then Rabbi Bruce Lustig, each one of them strengthening the social justice work of Washington Hebrew and the special relationship and partnership between Washington Hebrew and the RAC. And I have reason to suspect your new senior rabbi will probably keep that going. Bruce drew on his interfaith relations and close relations with African American leaders to help launch the annual 9/11 Unity March. And as you know with pride, Washington Hebrew created and launched the very first mitzvah day, and we worked together closely over 2 years in a major campaign to make it a norm, not only of Reform Jewish life in America, but it got picked by federations, Reform, conservative, and Orthodox congregations. I have to say that one of my most bemused and triumphant moments of my career is when I heard about a Presbyterian church in Indiana that had started its own mitzvah day. And we deeply appreciate the recent creation of the Tikkun Olam Values Center here at Washington Hebrew. That Bruce has so graciously opened up Washington Hebrew to host many of the opening evening sessions of our flagship conference, the Consultation on Conscience, bringing before us some of the most significant public figures in America deep in that alliance. Bruce Lustig, you have strengthened so many of us, and you have strengthened the work that we have done and helped make us look good. L'chaim, l'chaim, dear friend, may you now go from strength to strength for many, many years to come.
Shabbat Shalom. I have no idea how I've been called to this sacred place in this sacred moment, but I am extraordinarily humbled and honored to be in this congregation, in this moment, and in the life of my friend, Rabbi Lustig. This is an occasion in which we mark a retirement after 36 years of service, and we celebrate the rabbinate of an extraordinary leader. And yet I am mindful of the fact that the word retirement cannot be found in the Hebrew of our forebears. The word retirement does not occur in the scriptures. The scriptures do not tell us that the prophets, the priests, the Levites had retirement ceremonies. And so if I engage in a bit of linguistic conjecture, if I exercise my moral imagination, I believe the word retirement and retirement ceremonies do not exist because rabbinates of extraordinary rabbis do not end. We're taught that rabbis are revered teachers. And as teachers, they have their own individual anointed pedagogies, their own means of teaching. But if in this congregation tonight there is an elementary school teacher, a middle school teacher, a high school teacher, a college professor, a mother, a father, somebody who's been a student, somebody who's been a teacher, I suspect that you understand that we as students learn in a variety of ways. We learn kinesthetically, we feel, we touch. We learn visually, we see. We learn auditorily, we hear. And I suspect in this Washington Hebrew congregation that there is somebody who's learned from Rabbi Bruce Lustig visually. He's taught about radical hospitality. And perhaps you didn't quite glean that from the black and white text of the Hebrew. But perhaps somebody here recalls when the NAACP announced a march from Selma, Alabama to Washington, D.C., a journey of 1,000 miles over the course of 40 days. Perhaps someone here recalls a distinguished congregation called Washington Hebrew Congregation opened their arms in an act of radical hospitality. Perhaps somebody here learned what it meant to open your arms, to wrap your arms around somebody, to serve food and offer care and love in an act of radical hospitality. Perhaps Bruce Lustig, Rabbi Lustig, taught as a consequence of the eloquence and erudition of example. Not merely preaching, not merely teaching, but demonstrating and displaying God's love. Now that's a reason to revere and respect and lift up the legacy of Rabbi Lustig. But can I tell you that's a reason for you to be proud of yourselves as a congregation? Oh, I can tell that it's not quite clear. As young people say, that's not brag, that's just fact. Perhaps there's someone here who learns kinesthetically.
You have to touch, you have to feel. It's not enough to hear the lesson. You have to touch the lesson. I recall when I served as president and CEO of the NAACP, I had the occasion to observe a great many leaders in public and private, from the President of the United States to city council persons. But during those years, I observed a leader who was not only a great leader in public and by proclamation, but also in private. I observed a leader who was not only a great prophet, but also a loving caretaker. Note in this span, these few moments, you heard a rabbi described who was not only a great teacher, not only an extraordinarily and prophetic preacher, but someone who's loving and caring, who, note this, in his retirement epistle, he notes that I am retiring. I too am in denial. I don't know if in Reform Judaism retirements can be rescinded, but somebody needs to look into that. But I would note in his retirement letter, he says, I'm going to retire, but for those of you whom I promised to marry, to participate in the life cycle ceremonies of your lives, I will be there for you. Even in his retirement, he takes time to show people, to allow people to touch love, care, and compassion. Perhaps there's someone here who learns auditorily. You have to hear in order to learn. Can I tell you? I've heard Rabbi Lustig speak from this bema, but I've also heard him speak to people who are not Reformed, not Orthodox, not conservative. Some of them were Baptist, some of them were Methodist, some of them were Muslim, some Christian, some of no particular faith. I've heard him speak to them in words that reflect the highest values of Judaism, in ways that ring in people's ears and in their hearts and reverberate in their minds. That's a lasting legacy. This rabbinate will not end. May I suggest to you that there are people all across Washington, D.C., all across the length and breadth of this republic, and yea, even around this world, who respect and love and revere your rabbi. Now, in my family, we take pride in our people, sometimes whether it's deserved or not. If there's somebody here whose children have been bar and bat mitzvah, if there's somebody here whose family has been blessed by his service, if there's somebody here who's been encouraged, inspired, lifted up, I want you to use every tooth in your mouth, from your molars to your incisors, and I need you to smile broadly and look in this direction. Because your rabbi loves you and cares you. And may I say this? Because I see the rabbi's children here tonight. There's never been a time in which I've talked to your father in which he did not talk about you. Never been a time when he didn't talk about the classes you were taking. Never been a time in which he did not talk about what you were doing, how well you were doing, how proud he was of you. And what is true of his children is true of this entire congregation. Love, affection does not end. Now, finally, I'll just note this. When the rabbi spoke to me of his supposed, rumored retirement, he shared with me a story as a way of encouraging me, inspiring me, and also advising me. He said to me that while it's important to work while you can, it's also important to dance while you can. Suggesting in this new phase of his life and in this new phase of his rabbinate that he will take time to dance. But Brother Lustig, may I remind you that if you dance, you have to sing. And so I simply leave you with these words. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on, let us march on, let us march on till victory is won. And while he marches, I will be with him every step of the way.
Marcus, you get to follow that. So Marcus and Eve Lustig, Rabbi Lustig's children who have grown up here at Washington Hebrew Congregation. He's joined as well by Ron Lustig this evening, as well as Debbie Wolf.
Hi everyone, we're Marcus and Eve, and Marcus is going to share some words on our behalf on growing up here.
This is amazing. This reminds me of that old show, This Is Your Life. It's amazing to be after following the former U.S. ambassador on interfaith work and former president of the NAACP, and I earned my spot here speaking by doing the very difficult work of being born. So I just thought we would talk a little bit about what it was like to grow up as the rabbi's children here at Washington Hebrew. Okay, so again, I'm Marcus. This is my sister Eve. I do a lot of performing, and sometimes I introduce myself on stage by saying that my dad is a rabbi and my mom is a lawyer, and I am a comedian. And we're just getting Jewier by the generation. I'm gonna have a son, and he's gonna be a challah. I perform a lot. I perform a lot in the South, and sometimes I have to explain that a challah is a loaf of bread, and then they get the joke. People used to. So other kids in Hebrew school used to, sometimes say things like, Shouldn't you know that? Aren't you the rabbi's son? And that would make me very angry that I was expected, that people implied that my dad's job was more important to my life than other people's job. I would want to turn to another kid and say, how much do you know about what your dad does? How much do you know about being an orthopedist? But the truth is that they were right. My dad's job did totally shape my life, our lives. And though that was something sometimes I pushed back against as a kid, that is something that today I feel very lucky for. To explain to you the extent to which Washington Hebrew shaped our lives, if you made a list of every place I had traveled before the age of 18, I could tell you how each trip related to a different part of Jewish programming. We went to Israel many, many times, Morocco, when we led a trip there to explore Jewish history in Morocco. Spring break 2011, we went to New Orleans, which is the birthplace of jazz, and that year was also home to the Central Conference of American Rabbis. We would go to New York with the confirmation kids. When I was a little kid, I would get to tag along on the bus with the 10th graders, and I just thought they were the coolest people who had ever lived. We had the truly just incredible privilege of going to Israel every summer, pretty much growing up, when my parents would lead trips from our congregation to Israel. And in the fall, I'd go back to school and other kids would brag about their trip to Disneyland. And I would say, that's cool, but do you know the story of Masada? Tragedy and courage all in one. It's got everything. Honestly, those trips to Israel are my favorite memories. Like John brought up earlier, and those are some of our best friends we met on those trips. And when I think of the platonic ideal of my family, I imagine my family on the tour bus in Israel leading those trips. I think that when everyone remembers their childhood, there are magical places. And for me, this building was the magical place of my childhood. Dad was very good friends with John Chain, the bishop of the National Cathedral. And in Dad's office when I was a kid, John Chain gave me a red and gold pin that he told me could get me into any room of the National Cathedral anytime. And I still have that pin. One year on Super Bowl Sunday, there was a blizzard, and our power went out, and we drove down to Temple and dropped the big screens in Edlovich Hall and watched the game. And they hadn't finished cleaning up from the bat mitzvah the day before. So we sat on a leather couch next to a big sign that said, like, Ella's Broadway bat mitzvah or something. As a little kid in this sanctuary, I met the kinds of incredible people who spoke tonight. Too many to name. People like Cornell Brooks, people like Elie Wiesel. So that was my childhood. That was the childhood that we got to have. Upstairs here, standing behind my dad's leg while he talked to someone like the Israeli ambassador, and then going downstairs and playing hide and seek together in the boiler room. I played football in the lobby with Dina Manovich. On weekday afternoons, I would eat candy and do my homework next to Lainey and Marcia at their desks. If Eve and I felt chatty, we'd buzz around the offices of Lindsay and Stephanie and Madge and Petra and Nancy and Steve and Susan Hannenbaum and interrupt everyone's work. I have such incredible memories with Ira and Mike Ney and Sue Shankman and Susan Bortnick and Misha and Aaron and Joey Hessel and Joseph Mesler and Josh Burrows. We'd often slip out of services and follow around Fakati and Mohan and Blanca and Newton and Fabio and Thedius and Larry while they worked. I'm saying a lot of old school Washington Hebrew names. I feel like I'm reminiscing about an old SNL cast or something. But the point is, as a child, I would wander freely around this building, surrounded by benevolent adults, really good adults who all listened to me and spent time with me and took care of me. And Eve. Very important things and very mundane things all happened, got mixed up all together under this one roof. When it's Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the year, it's the holiest day of the year, but it's your dad up on stage leading the Avinu Malkeinu. The seriousness of the moment is not lost on you, but you don't feel afraid of that seriousness because that's your dad up there. On Friday nights, I'd watch Dad on the bima lift the Torah with both hands above his head and lead everyone in the Shema, and I'd feel proud. And because of that, for me as a kid, I didn't know a distinction between the sacred and the everyday. And I didn't know that you were supposed to make a distinction between those two things. And I think that's a really wonderful way to grow up. So I feel lucky and want to say thank you for letting Eve and I grow up amongst you all. Mazel tov. Pop on this wonderful milestone.
I promise I'll speak fast. A little bit of a different kind of Torah. A magician was working on a cruise ship in the Caribbean. This is not a Washington Hebrew trip, but a magician working on a cruise ship in the Caribbean, and the audience was new each week, so he always did the same tricks. And the problem was that the captain's pet parrot saw all the shows and began to understand how the magician did every trick. And it started squawking in the middle of the show, "Look, it's not the same hat. Look, he's hiding flowers under the table. Hey, why are all the cards the ace of spades?" And the magician was furious, but as it was the captain's parrot, there really wasn't much that he could do about it. And then one day the cruise ship ran aground and sank. And the magician found himself adrift on a piece of wood with the parrot. And they glared at each other, but said nothing. And finally the parrot said, "Okay, I give up. Where's the boat?" And I will be honest, I am feeling a little bit like that parrot this evening, having studied and observed behind the scenes all these years, watching in awe as Rabbi Bruce Lustig performed his magic, both literally and figuratively, and still feeling the same sense of awe I experienced when I arrived here at Washington Hebrew Congregation 21 plus years ago. It feels so appropriate that we're gathered at this moment in the Jewish calendar, a liminal moment with the sukkah representing the fragility of life, a temporary dwelling place, and a reminder of our own vulnerability, while simultaneously symbolizing the blessings we feel, the fullness of our lives as we reflect on what we have reaped. And tonight we reflect on all that we have gained through the 36 years that we have been blessed by Rabbi Bruce Lustig's leadership at Washington Hebrew Congregation. Bruce embodies so much of this holiday spirit, an open door to his home like the sukkah itself, which inspires us to care for others. Bruce hardly needs to quote as a reminder for the message of our prophets, to welcome the stranger, to care for the vulnerable among us has always been at the heart of his rabbinate. And that value, that expression of Judaism is what has brought so many of us here this evening to express our gratitude for all the gifts he has given to this congregation and this community. Throughout his 36 years in the rabbinate, Bruce has exemplified our prophet's message to care for the widow, the orphan, the hungry. His Torah is one of action and engagement, inspired by Martin Buber's philosophy and the passion of the Baal Shem Tov. Rabbi Lustig's leadership in Judaism has been as much about cerebral engagement as communal connection and inclusion. He is renowned for his creativity in the planning of programs and events. From conception to implementation, he is a whiz of a guide, as well as an amazing sounding board and source of feedback for all those who work with him. His goal is always success, but success to Bruce is not measured merely through accolades or numbers. Rather, he measures success through how well we reach and inspire our congregants, as well as the broader community. Are we truly acting as a light to the world around us? Are we engaging meaningfully beyond the moment and with deeper reach? He has, as you've heard, established programs locally through our congregation. In addition to Mitzvah Day and others, he established our 9th grade Bressler Sexuality Retreat, which has been used by the Union for Reform Judaism, as they recently developed a sexuality curriculum for the youth of the Reform movement. He reminds us every day that what we do matters, and that how we do it matters. One of Rabbi Lustig's greatest strengths is his ability to be empathetic to another's needs. He has walked with our congregants and staff on our journeys through illness, bereavement, or any of life's other challenges. He offers sound advice and counseling and remembers to check in as life unfolds, and even after difficult chapters or seasons have ended. Detail and memory are part of his innate gifts, and he channels them in a way that embodies Martin Buber's I-thou philosophy. We all marvel at his ability to weave together family histories and be able to make a congregation of 3,000 families seem as though it is just 3 families who are all connected. He knows every point of intersection and connection. And perhaps more importantly, in his presence, each family feels as though they are the only family. As you have already heard tonight, their life cycle event is the only one because in that moment, as so many of us have experienced, we are. And somehow he has made a large congregation feel small and personal by moving heaven and earth to share with all of us in our simchas and our challenging moments. And he is able to do all of this while simultaneously representing his congregants and Jewish community in many venues throughout Washington, D.C., and on the local, national, and international stage. And as a result, we at Washington Hebrew Congregation have been the beneficiary of his tremendous work nurturing interfaith dialogue. He, and thus we, have earned the reputation across the religious and political community as a respected partner. I am but one of many clergy and staff partners who have had the privilege to work alongside and be guided by Bruce's wisdom and experience. We are all better rabbis, better cantors, better at our various roles and responsibilities because of the lessons learned, the questions asked, and the knowledge transmitted. We have striven for excellence in all that we do because of the high bar you have set, Bruce, knowing full well that you would be right there beside us. And sometimes that meant holding on for dear life as we went zipping through DC in your little red car, and now your big red truck, and fortunately we can see you coming. You always reminded us that we are only as good as our last service, our last sermon or event, holding us to the high standards that our congregants expect, and ensuring that we even reach those expectations and that we each reach those expectations in our own way. For 21 years, I've had the blessing of sharing a true I-thou relationship with you, Bruce, and a partnership. We have shared in our professional, our personal, and spiritual lives. We have celebrated together. We have stood beside one another at personal moments of challenge and mourning. Few people fully understand and appreciate the extent to which you have gone for our congregation, the full heights and depths of what you do each and every day, pouring your heart and soul into each relationship and interaction. And those of us who have worked beside you these years know and see, recognize, appreciate, and understand. From the beginning, you have had faith in each of us, in our abilities, and inspired each of us to reach for ever greater heights. And I can say for myself personally, while we may wear very different shoes, it is certainly still an honor to thank you on behalf of all those who have labored in God's vineyard by your side. And on behalf of our congregation, I want to invite forward our chairs once more to share on behalf of all of us.
So we're back, and we promise to be as brief. We do have some things that we want to give to Bruce, as Bruce has given all of these things to so many congregants over the years. What we want to do is now allow him to be the recipient of the things he's given so many people, which is a different role for you, but one we hope you will appreciate and understand the significance of. So as a former board member, I had the privilege of giving out these Kiddush cups many Fridays.
Cammie Lauren Nathanson Kiddush
The
cup.
Cammie Lauren Nathanson. I think the congregation knows what they look. They know what they look like.
We all have one at
With the
home.
guests. I think we've all seen these. This is the first time I've actually given one to somebody who's approximately my age, but it is a pleasure to give you this Cammie Nathanson Kiddush cup, and may you drink a lot of wine and enjoy it while you're dancing.
Thank you.
And if anybody hasn't seen this is Bruce's favorite magic trick where he whips the top off the challah. And so we're giving you a challah cover.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
And to light your way on Shabbat,
Thank you so much.
we would like you to have these Shabbat candlesticks. Thank you.
All right, am I hot on this mic?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I want to move straight to the motzi. I want to take just a minute, and really short, to humbly say thank you to all of you. And tell you that I'm so profoundly honored to share with so many of these people who labor every day in extraordinary ways to make sure we have a better world. I had a bet, and he almost won it, that Pastor Bob Roberts was going to convert all of you. And I want you to know I moved the water from up there because otherwise he would have baptized you all. Bob's an extraordinary man. Imam Majid, David Saperstein. I have walked the world with them, and we have tried to do some extraordinary things. And I'm so honored that you're here. Beverly, I've known for a long, long time, and she is somebody who is true to the core. And Beverly, I'd stand by your side and walk through any fire with you, babe. And you know that. And to the pastors that are here, I want to thank you. But most importantly, I just want to thank all of you for giving me the opportunity. To Marcus and Eve, thank you for not ridiculing me too badly. But they and their mom gave up an awful lot in order for me to be as intense in the way that I have been. Most of all, I want to thank two people. I'll try to hold it together. One of them is not here. The other, I'm sure, will watch the tape. That's my mother and father. They're very different people, but extraordinary. My brother Ron, who is here, knows that we grew up in a household because our mother was a Holocaust survivor. We didn't really have a childhood, so to speak. We were forced to be young adults early on. But if I have fire in my belly, it's because my mom believed that she lived for a reason. And that reason was to make sure that atrocities like she had witnessed did never happen again. She is 92 years old, and she still rules the roost. And she's an extraordinary woman. And I thank her for all that she has given me. Not just life, but the fact that she gave me the courage and the solace and the support to be who I needed to be. I'm a dyslexic. If you asked me to spell the word rendezvous, you might have said, and my life depended, I'd say, just shoot me. I have no idea. Ask my kids. Half the time I yell out and Eve will come over and go, just let me do it. I learned to dictate things and things. When I came to this congregation, I was honest. I came to them and said, listen, I'll tell you, if you want me for spelling and grammar, you better get somebody else. But if you want somebody who work hard and believes in the future of Judaism, I can do that. And Froma Sandler took a risk on me. Where is Froma? Right over there. Froma Sandler and Stuart Bindeman, they hired me. And she's been by my side every step of the way. And I thank all the past presidents. I also just want to say that my father was an extraordinary man. He believed in principle over anything else. He was exacting in the things that he did. And he was a consummate teacher. He was gifted. He had hands. He could fix anything. And my brother and I grew up working by his side, which meant as you went through the house, you better be damn sure that if you put on a light cover, that either those screws were both horizontal or both vertical, and that they matched throughout the house. He was an extraordinary teacher and a brilliant man. And he wasn't very successful at business because he believed in principle over profit. When I told him I was going to be a rabbi, he said, "How the hell are you going to make a living?" I said, "I don't know." He'd never become a bar mitzvah, but he was the most religious man I knew. He believed in truth, in justice, and doing things the right way. And he never backed down from that, ever. He would tell somebody you could do a job and it would cost $1,500 to do this way, but there's another way. The right way was to do it this way, but I could do it for $800. They'd say, "Of course I want it for $800. Well, then he would do it the $1,500 way and take the loss. He couldn't compromise on doing something less than the right way. And that's what we grew up on. And despite it all, my brother is a phenomenal and brilliant architect, and I'm the schlub in the family who became the rabbit. I'm going to tell you 2 other quick stories, and then we can all go and eat, because this is one of the longest services I've ever been in my life. If I still have influence, I used to always be going, let's go, let's go. I tried to get him to cut, but one story is one I want to tell you that is one of my favorite stories. I think it's Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Did I say it right, Eve? Gabriel Garcia Marquez, in 100 Years of Solitude, has a story that simply says about people in a town, they're losing their memory. And they put a sign on everything. This is a chair. This is a table. This is a book. And outside of the town, put a big sign that said, God exists. Because if we forget that, we no longer have memory or capability. You know that I've stood before you and I've struggled. I don't know, still at 64, what I believe and what I don't believe. But I'm not going to give up trying or struggling. If there's a God, I'm a tough one because I'm going to hold God accountable. If there's not, I believe we have to be accountable. But God's vision of what can be, it's up to us. Now, I want to give you a trade secret. You're going to see me later on doing what Rabbi Haberman used to do to me. I'll do it to Rabbi Shankman, I'm sure. Rabbi Haberman used to come up, put his arms around my neck, lean, put his forehead to me, and he'd say something, and all the women afterwards go, "Oh my God, that is so beautiful. Rabbi Haberman blessed you. Oh, that is so beautiful." What did Josh say to me? "You poor SOB, I'm the only one here who knows your pain." To be a congregational rabbi, to be the rabbi at Washington Hebrew congregation is an extraordinary opportunity and an extraordinary task. And it has been a privilege and an honor to have you call me rabbi. I'm not sure I always deserved it, but I want you to know I tried to each and every time in the best way that I possibly could. So, as I leave you, I want to remind you, as I've always said, there are no right decisions in life. There are decisions that we make right. I hope in the future that I've talked to my good friends, I want to continue because Bob Roberts, Imam Majid, and David Saperstein introduced me early on to something that I have craved and given me great opportunities. I'm a Pisher from Nashville, Tennessee. I was born in Nashville, Tennessee. I can't even spell the word rendezvous. They wanted to kick me out of the Hebrew Union College because I couldn't pass certain tests because I did everything by memory. I'm a dyslexic. That's why I took every student that had trouble with Hebrew, wanted to make sure that they didn't feel alienated by their own faith, telling them that this is what they had to do to be Jewish. Menachem and Yaffa have heard me every time laughing as I mumble and bumble Hebrew all the time. One time years ago, went into a butcher and went the whole time and supposed to order oaf, but instead I said kof, and he said there's only one here, and a kof is a monkey, and an oaf is a chicken. Despite our flaws, we can rise above and be who we need to be. It is tough to be a rabbi. It's even tougher to be a rabbi's kid. Ask Mark Newman. But what is amazing, and I agree with David Saperstein, there is no job that gives you the opportunity to have the privilege to walk into people's lives and to be welcomed, to be embraced, to be loved, to be touched. I humbly want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to be part and parcel of your life, of this congregation. As I've told people, this congregation has incredible bones. It was great before MBL. It'll be great after MBL. It'll be great after Sue Shankman, who's a brilliant choice for you, because there is no one who's more empathetic and a better listener than Sue Shankman. And she has been a partner every step of the way. And I commend you, and I look forward to watching her lead this congregation to new and even greater heights, because she will. And to my other colleagues, to Susan and Misha and Aaron, I want to thank everyone. And this is called aphasia, Rabbi Fischel, who I know could say her last name, but because it begins, thank you, Eliana. Eve is whispering it to me because there's certain things that I can't pull out. It's just part of having a stroke. In any case, I want to thank you. To my friends and colleagues, I've been blessed. So I think we have one more thing to do, and then we get to do motzi, and then let's eat, and then let's go home and go to sleep. Woo. Jesus. What do you have?
the merger poem by Judy Chicago. And then all that has divided us will merge, and then compassion will be wedded to power. And then softness will come to a world that is harsh and unkind. And then both men and women will be gentle, and then both women and men will be strong, and then no person will be subject to another's will.
And then all will be rich and free and varied, and the greed of some will give way to the needs of many. And then all will share equally in the earth's abundance.
And then all will care for the sick and the weak and the old.
And then all will cherish life's creatures.
And then all will live in harmony with each other and the earth.
And then everywhere will be called Eden once again.
ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו
As we are gathered here this evening to celebrate our teacher and mentor and friend, we think of those in our own lives, in our own personal lives, who have been a teacher and a mentor and a friend to us, but who are no longer with us, who their teachings, their love only exists now in our hearts. And so today, Washington Hebrew remembers A. Palma Aronson, Harry C. Alperts, Fanny Alper, Melvin M. Augenstein, Amelia D. Baer, Jane Mann Bauman, Herman Beek, David Sylvan Block, Gerson Bud Bonnet, Milton Brown, Mary Chidekel, William A. Cohen, William Wolf Cohen, Jeffrey Lawrence Dates, Clara Dreisenstock, Elizabeth Edlovich, Rose Fisher, Sylvia Strauss-Florsheim, Haiti Fletcher Gans, Ricka Gans, Martin H. Goldstein, Molly Greenberg, Sidney Norman Greenspan, Nelson Greller, Sidney Guggenheim, Jesse R. Heineman, Catherine W. Hertzberg, Mary Higger, Annie Horowitz, Rose Horowitz, Victory Pizer Jacobson, Henry A. Jaffe, Charles Terry Joseph, Leah F. Kaplan, Henry L. Kaufman, Isabel G. Kaufman, Jerome G. Kaufman, Julius Kolodner, Mary R. Korzech, Manuel J. Laskin, Faye Liff Latin, Philip G. Levy, Samuel Liebes, Melvin Lieberman, Jacob Limon, Marilyn Carol Lipnick, Maurice Lipnick, Bertha Livingston, Marvin Magner, Clara Frerick Marks, Harold Messenger, Ruth Myers, Gerson Nordlinger Jr., Cyril M. Perlman, Esther Plitman, Dory E. Rakusin, Samuel L. Rakusin, David H. Rosen, Samuel Rappart, Joel Rudick, Ruben G. Samakow, Joseph Schoenfeld, Lucy Schramm, Joseph R. Schubel, Marvin Mermelstein, Dora K. Schwartz, Dora Sherman, Richard Hugh Semsker, Lawrence Norton Chaplin, Earl Silverman, Pearl Sobel, Elka Stolaru, William Hamlin Stone, Lillian Posner Wallace, Rabbi Joseph P. Weinberg, Sylvia Weiner, Isadora Weisbach, Raymond Wexler, Jean Wickman, Louis Weiner, Amelia Wolf, Samuel H. Wolk, Louis M. Zakroff, and those recently laid to rest: Florence Kahn Allentuck, Joel Marowitz, Betty A. Green, Alice Louise Gritz, Betty Gustorf, Larry Lodapupo, Stephen Grabiner, Faye Reuben Brody, Joseph Battleman, Stanley Berlinski. If I have inadvertently mispronounced the name of your loved one, or if you have a name to add to our memorial this evening, I'll ask that you share that name out loud with our community at this time.
We rise for Mourner's Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba, ve'alma divrach hirutei ve'amlich malchutei, v'chayachon uvyomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, va'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabba mivarach leolam ulalmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudasha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, za'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehesh lama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'el kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'el kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be for a blessing, and we say together, amen. You may be seated.
Unless your name is Ryan or Emmy, in which case, please join us on the bima for Kiddush. You've waited so patiently, so long, and you finally get your very own Cami Lauren Nathanson Kiddush cups.
So we have Ellen Miller here today to do a special presentation for our B'nai Mitzvah.
The first thing I have to say is Yasher Koach, Rabbi Bruce Lustig.
By the way, the two of you don't have to go through confirmation. You've already been through it enough.
Shabbat Shalom. What a meaningful way to honor Rabbi Lustig's 36 years at Washington Hebrew Congregation. I'm Ellen Miller, a member of the Board of Directors here at WHC, and a past president of Women of WHC, our sisterhood. Thank you everyone for joining us tonight in this very special Shabbat. And I also have to add that I am the mother of 3 boys who gave you a run for your money, would you say, Rabbi Lustig, especially another dyslexic. So thank you, and it's been wonderful. As Marcus mentioned the mundane, I have a few announcements as we continue our celebration of Rabbi Lustig. Please join us Sunday morning at 10 a.m. at the Julia Bindeman Suburban Center for Rabbi Lustig's Simchat Torah and social action event. I know he'd love to see a large crowd, so please RSVP on the temple website. As Sukkot comes to a close, there will be a Yizkor service here at Temple, Monday at 10:30 in the morning. Be sure to check the website for details about our new WHC Connections, Sunday walking, and small business networking groups. To learn more and register for these and other events, please read Life at WHC email each Thursday or look through the WHC Journal. Every Shabbat, we increase our joy by reciting Kiddush. This is a moment when we remember the miracle of the Exodus and celebrate our freedom. At Washington Hebrew Congregation, we also use this moment in our service to remember Cami Lauren Nathanson and the power each of us has to make an impact in our community and to change the world for the better. As we celebrate the milestone of our B'nai Mitzvah, Ryan Hutt and Emerson Goldstein. And somebody's name was left off my list. I'm sorry, you are.
No, this is Emerson. This is
you're
Emmy.
Emerson. Pardon me. Here you are. Hold on here. We also invite all the children who are present tonight to come forward and lead us in Kiddush. Are there some young children? Please come up if you're here. This part of the service has always given Rabbi Lustig big smiles and much joy. So kids, come up if you're here.
Or if you're a kid at heart.
Yes. Yes.
Go on, go on.
May the
All right.
vision of these young people give us strength, pride, and hope in a brighter future.
were finished in all their array. On the seventh day, God finished the work that God had been doing. And God ceased on the seventh day from all the work that God had done. And God blessed the seventh day and declared it holy, because on it God ceased from all the work of creation that God had done.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Praise to you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, creator of the fruit of the vine.
L'chaim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. L'chaim.
So we'd like to invite all the rabbinic children to come up for Motzi. We already lost Marcus, he left. No, he's coming. And Evie, come on up. Mark Newman, you're in RK. Come on up. Aaron's in RK. Debbie Wolf is in RK. Oh my goodness. Thank you. Got it. We don't need an instrument of war. So, my singing debut, Misha. Ready? Baruch atah Adonai
Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'te'avon.
And please rise. Adonai yishmor tzeitecha uvecha me'ata v'ad olam. May God guard your going and your coming this day and every day. Let us say amen.
Amen.
Amen. And for God's sakes, let's go eat. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
met at the MLK service.
Okay.
This was like 5-6 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we also met standing in front of the seat.
Yep. This was a march. A march that I know we left here, walked to some place, and then came back.
Okay.
Yeah. 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 It's good to see you again.
Anyway, I just wanted
and then make the connection
Yeah.
to being his sister. Yeah.
Not Bruce's sister, Amy's sister.